Hi, everybody. Mike Beer here with your Thursday DRF race of the day. We're going down to Oaklawn Park for race number 8, a high-priced allowance, optional claiming race, going a 2-turn mile on the main track. This is for older fillies and mares, a really good field, a lot of horses who certainly have stakes potential and have shown that in the past. And you also have a few horses returning from layoffs in here, so that could certainly play into the equation here. Let's take a look at the field. It's a good one, a field of 9. You can see the morning line favorite at 3-1 is Fighting Mad, shipping in for Bob Baffert. She's one of the horses who has a layoff to deal with. We will talk about her in a minute. This is her first start since last August at Del Mar when she won the Grade 3 Torrey Pines. You have a horse down on the rail in Vault who is 7-2, the second choice on the line. She's also returning from a layoff. The number 2, Vexatious, the number 4, Latruska, the number 8, Blamed, all up there at 9-2 on the morning line. Each of those 3 horses have something to recommend to them as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the betting all shakes out, first of all, because I think that's going to be very important as you try to decide who you actually want to bet in this race. All these horses that we've already mentioned here certainly have a real chance to win this race. It's just a question of what kind of price can you get and what kind of price would you take on them. Let's start with the Timeform US pace projector of the race, because that certainly feels like the pace of this race is going to have something to say as far as the outcome goes. They have the Baffert horse Fighting Mad making the early lead in this race. It's hard to really argue with that. Fighting Mad could certainly show fresh speed. This is her first start in a very long time. Again, since last August at Del Mar. She began her career sprinting. She won the first 2 starts of her career. She certainly had speed as a sprinter for Baffert. The Torrey Pines, the last time we saw her in August, was the first and only time that Baffert stretched her out in distance, and she did wire that field, but it wasn't a very fast pace. So we'll see how she can deal with this pace scenario, because when you look at that pace projector, the 4 Latruska, she's a one-way speed horse on the lead in all 3 of her North American starts, and certainly looks like that's her preferred running style. The 8 Blamed is also expected to show speed, and she's another horse who just really wants to be part of the pace. Even the 9 Motion Emotion, who pace projector does not feel like is fast enough to get to the front in here, and that may be the case. She hasn't really shown her good speed in quite a while, but it's worth remembering that early on in her career, she was a very fast horse. And it may, she just may be a horse who wants to go back to those tactics in here and could be part of this pace as well. So I think the pace will, have a lot to say about the outcome in here. Let's take a look at some of the contenders here, because down on the rail, number 1 is Vault, and I do think she's a contender, and she does have that layoff to deal with. But as we talk about her, let's go back and show a replay of her most recent start. This is at the end of November last year. Vault is a filly who got really good as a 3-year-old. This is her final start last year as a 3-year-old, a 38 Go Stakes at Laurel Park, going a mile and a 16th. And she just looked really good winning this race. This is her 4th straight win on dirt as a 3-year-old. She just continued to improve throughout that campaign. All 4 of those wins on the main track, just absolute blowouts for the most part. I don't know if you would classify this race that we just watched here as a blowout, but she won very easily. Her 3 prior starts were all at Penn National. She just destroyed those fields. And I just like the way that she was progressing. An 80 buyer for that first dirt win. After that, they tried turf and synthetic with her. And when they came back to dirt, an 87, an 89, an 91, she just kept getting better. I really like her running style as well. She's a horse who has been perfectly content to just track off a pace. She does not want the lead. It could lead to her falling into a really good trip here from the rail. This is going to be her first start for Brad Cox. Madcat Stables has bought into her since that last start that we saw from Vault. So she's been turned over to Brad Cox, who obviously does a really good job. The number 2 is Vexatious. She's probably going to take money in here. She's a 6-year-old. A little bit of an infrequent winner. She's 3 for 19 in her career. One of those wins came via disqualification on the grass. So she's really only finished first twice in her 19 race career. Once on dirt, once on turf. She's 1 for 10 as a dirt horse. She's off a layoff here as well. I think you have to worry about that. She may be a horse who just wants to go a little longer than this as well. She's been more of a routing kind of horse in her career. So the 1 mile distance could be a little short for her. We'll see how that plays out. I want to, as we talk about her, show the replay of the Summer Colony last summer at Saratoga, because this was a terrific effort for Vexatious. If she could run a race like this, I think that she's going to be a handful in this race. This is this Summer Colony, her first dirt start in over a year. They spent a lot of time on turf with her as a 4 and 5-year-old, and she had success on the grass, so it's not like it was a mistake. But it's also worth remembering that she was a very good dirt horse early in her career. This Summer Colony was a giant performance. The 95 Buyer, she was close to the pace all the way. You saw her take that race over readily as they came to the stretch, and she was dead game. That horse running her down there was Blue Prize, who would go on out of that race to win the Spinster and then the Breeders' Cup Distaff. So obviously she was run down by a quality racehorse there. Vexatious was excellent in that Summer Colony. And again, prior to that, you have to go back to 2017 for her dirt form, but she was a good 3-year-old on the main track, even though she didn't win very many races. She ran several, she came to several very good efforts on the main track. The number 3 is Miss Bigley, another horse who's been, very quietly sort of in really good form. She's 4 for 5 on dirt in her career. She's been more of a turf horse and campaigned that way. The first 3 dirt wins of her career were all races that were scheduled for turf and then rained off to the main track, and she won 3 of those. Including a race 2 back where she was dropped in for $30,000 and won pretty easily in a race that was rained off the turf. She was claimed out of that race by Eddie Keneally, and then came back for her next start. He bumped her up in class, entered her actually in a dirt race, and she won very easily once again, just rated off the pace, came when it was time, and won very easily through the stretch of that race. It's worth noting that she's taken a big step up in class for this race. Eddie Keneally is excellent. He has excellent stats. This is the race of the day, so you can just go into Formulator and look up his statistics first time off the claim. His numbers are excellent. And so it's not really a surprise that Miss Bigley took a step forward for her. The question is, can she take another step forward against this field? Because she is going to have to. The number 4 is Latruska. Listen, she's 8 for 8 on dirt in her career. She began down in Mexico where she was just way better than those horses, won a couple of Group 1s last summer prior to shipping up to Gulfstream to go 1.25 miles. In one of those South American Invitational races. She won that race very easily, just better than those horses after getting loose on the lead. The only mistake she's made so far was when they tried turf with her in the Tropical Park Oak. She set the pace of that day and finished last, but she's not a turf horse. She returned to dirt for her last start. Well, look at that right now. This is right here at Oaklawn Park, and I thought she looked really good winning this race. She did get loose on the lead again. It wasn't as strong a field as this one is. But she just won the race very easily. I like the way that she picked up when it was time around the second turn to really hold the favorite who was chasing her from there to the wire. Never let that horse get into the race. Won convincingly at the end. A 94 Buyer speed figure. Listen, it's faster than any race Vault has ever run. It's faster than any race Fighting Mad has ever run. It's faster than any race Blamed has ever run. So a figure like that certainly makes her a contender. And here the question is, can she make the lead in this race? Because she really does look like a horse who wants to be on the front in here. And of course, Fighting Mad and Blamed, drawn to her outside, both have speed. And if they deny her the lead, could make things really tough on Latruska. But she's a talented horse and obviously has made no mistakes on dirt. Beach Flower is the 5. Blessed Again is the 6. I respect both of these horses. They certainly feel like they're in a little tough in a race like this. Of those 2, and they're both big prices in here, so if you like them, you're probably supposed to bet them. I preferred Beach Flower. She does have the back races to be tough in here. Another horse kind of like Vexatious who's concentrated on turf a lot with some success, but she's also a good dirt horse and an underrated dirt horse. Last time she was only 3rd best when she finished behind Motion Emotion, but she was off the layoff there. I didn't think she ran terribly. She didn't run great, but she didn't run terribly for her first start off the layoff. Now she's 2nd time back. I think she could take a step forward in here. Fighting Mad, the Baffert shipper and the morning line favorite is the 7. We'll just see what happens with her in here. We'll show a replay of the Torrey Pines right now, which we mentioned a little bit at the Open. This is her first and only start around 2 turns going long, and she did win easily. She just got absolutely loose on the lead, had no trouble getting to the front on that field, never really faced the challenge, and just had plenty left when they got to the stretch and drew away from that field. It's an impressive win visually. It's not that fast. It is her 2nd consecutive 89 Buyer, though. As a 3-year-old, she's a newly turned 4-year-old for Baffert. She could easily take a step forward in here, but it's a very long layoff. She's facing a really strong field here, and she's going to be a short price. It's just all those things sort of add up to me taking a look elsewhere. Not that I'll be surprised if Fighting Mad wins. The 8 is Blamed for trainer Bill Mott. She's a little bit of an enigma, this horse. 3 starts already so far in 2020. 2 of them not so good. 1 of them pretty good. Obviously, the pace scenarios of those races are what made all the difference. In the Inside Information, the grade 2 off the layoff, and then in her most recent start, the Hurricane Birdie, the grade 3, they both featured really fast paces. Blamed, tried to make the lead in both of them, had to go too fast, and just caved in both times and finished last both times. In between those 2 races, Bill Mott found a nice, easy allowance race for her. She got loose on the lead, and she won very easily. she has races that make her really tough in here. She's 8 for 13 overall. And it's also sort of interesting that she's 4 for 4 routing in her career, has never lost when they've gone a distances of a mile or longer. And each one of those races were stakes races, but they were all races where she, was able to get really comfortable on the lead. And, she's that kind of horse. When she gets comfortable on the lead, she's really tough to deal with. And then when you force her to go a little bit faster and force her to really have to work for it, she's not quite as effective. So the pace is going to be really important to blame. I'm not her biggest fan. I haven't really, liked too many of her races. I do respect her. I'm just not a huge fan of hers. And if she's going to be one of the favorites, I'm probably not going to take her in this race. The 9 is Emotion. I just don't really know what to say about her. I was a big fan of hers as an early season 3-year-old last year. She was showing big speed in those races. Won her first 2 starts as a 3-year-old right here at Oaklawn Park. And then they ran her in the Honeybee and the Fantasy. She finished second in both of those races, but just ran giant on really fast paces both times. Since then, they haven't really, made her that kind of a speed horse. They've really not sent her to the lead on fast paces any longer. That was, the first time they did that was in the Kentucky Oaks, where I just felt like they made a huge mistake by not trying to make the lead in there. She didn't run well. And she just, at the end of the day, hasn't really taken a step forward as a 4-year-old. That bothers me about her. She hasn't improved from those early season 3-year-old races. I still like her as a horse. I don't know if she can make the lead in here. And if she does, if they decide that they want to try and make her a speed horse again, is this the right spot to really do it? I don't know. She's a big price. It always makes me want to take a second look at her because I remain a fan of hers. I just wish that her recent form was a little bit better. Not that she ran terribly last time. So that's the field of 9. It's a really, really good one. Let's put the picks up there because I'm going to go with Vexatious on top. I went 2, 1, 3, 5. In my picks, mostly with the 2 and the 1 as my top 2, just because I feel like they're going to sit off the pace a little bit. And I think that will help them. Vexatious has a layoff to deal with here, and maybe she'll need one off the bench here. And maybe eventually Jack Sisterson is really just looking to stretch her out off of this race and go a little bit longer. But I like her as a dirt horse. I know it's been few and far between the times they've run around dirt lately, but I like her as a dirt horse. And obviously we showed that Summer Colony 2 starts back earlier. If she can run a race like that, she's very tough in this race. So I took Vexatious on top, hoping that she stays around that morning line price around 9-2. I wouldn't take much shorter than that against this field. 2, 1, 3, and 5 for my top 4 in the Thursday race of the day. Oaklawn Park, race number 8, approximate post time is 4:38 Central Time. Good luck.